Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. You never know what tomorrow may bring. That's why it's important to get the right insurance coverage today. At Kentucky Farm Bureau, we deliver the protection and peace of mind your family deserves. In fact, we've been providing folks in the bluegrass with dependable service since 1943. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Welcome to Kentucky Farm Bureau News, the podcast. I'm Tim Thornberry, editor of the Kentucky Farm Bureau News magazine. Our guest today is KFB State Director Larry Thomas. Larry's a grain producer from Hardin County, and he's been involved in environmental issues for a long time. He's serving as the chair of the KFB Environmental Stewardship Advisory Committee, something new. Larry, you've got quite a bit of experience working with other groups on issues related to the environment. Is that right?
I'm the current chairman of the Kentucky Ag Water Quality Authority. I've been on the authority for, I don't really know, 15 years at least. So just got the chairmanship about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that's been interesting, but get to meet a lot of good people. And I've always said the greatest thing about the Ag Water Quality Authority, I felt like, was at least 4 times a year, you're getting all the players in the room. Division of Water, FSA, environmental groups, farmers are all in the room talking about the issues affecting agriculture and the issues affecting the waters of Kentucky. So that's, to me, is pretty important. It's important that farmers with 10 or more acres update these plans as they continue with other conservation practices, such as no-till production and the use of cover crops. Kentucky was one of the pioneers of no-till farming in the western part of the state, and it has caught on and spread across the Commonwealth. I feel like we've always been progressive and always tried to do a good job when it comes to caring for the natural resources. We're also a big wheat-growing state, so cover crops seem like a natural thing in areas where they work.
Absolutely. And you and I have talked about that before. So this new advisory committee, of course, Farm Bureau's got a long history about advisory committees on most every commodity and everything. So it seems only natural that an environmental stewardship committee would come along, and certainly with your experience with environmental issues, this sort of fits well together, don't you think?
I think so. I was the previous chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, and a lot of this kind of crosses over. Uh-huh. But when we're looking at this carbon sequestration and the carbon offsets that we're seeing that corporations are wanting to pay farmers to grow certain things to get those carbon offsets, it made sense to look at this in a new light and dig a little deeper into it and make sure that farmers are protected.
That is one thing, and I'm completely honest. I don't understand a whole lot about the carbon issue. Mm-hmm. I would say that there's been a lot of questions as this committee has met maybe once before. Mm-hmm. I bet this is a hot topic, isn't it? It
is, and it's kind of funny. Eddie asked me about this in January, and I said, yeah, if that's what you want to do, I'll be happy to help. And then I guess I paid more attention maybe. But it seems like every time I turned on RFD TV, they were talking about carbon offsets and CO2 and what farmers are doing to help alleviate those problems. And when I went to Commodity Conference or Commodity Classic last year, they had several presenters that were presenting on the CO2 issue and the carbon credit issues. So it's becoming a big thing, and not as much in Kentucky yet, but other states that have been used as a model maybe to start some of these programs. Some farmers are making some pretty good money offsetting their income by selling those credits. And at its basic form, Larry, what is a carbon credit? What exactly, how do you get that? It sounds like a little bit of an intangible to me, but maybe not. How do we get there for that? It seems like it's intangible, but it's no-till farming, using the computers that we use a lot of times in our tractors and our planters and our sprayers to get the right product in the right spot at the right time in the right amount. And if we're using that kind of technology, then they know we're doing a better job protecting the environment. So we can get credits for that.
I got you.
And then, but most of them are going toward cover crops.
Uh-huh.
And those cover crops are taking in carbon, and they are covering the ground in the wintertime to help control erosion. So companies that are emitting more CO2 than they are allowed to emit can pay someone else offsets and use their credits in that company's operation. So they pay the farmer to do these certain activities, so they can credit their CO2 levels with the farmer's offsets.
Sounds like a good thing for farmers.
It is, yes. And one thing we're concerned about is how far they want to go and how controlling of the farmers that they want to be.
I see.
So we want to make sure that the farmers are protected in any agreements that are made.
I know that a lot of folks in this state, I don't know that it's something that they can do in a lot of places, but we have what we call double crop beans. Mm-hmm. And you go in after that wheat crop and plant soybeans. And the wheat crop provides, if you will, a bit of natural fertilization that sort of helps with your input costs. Is that a good way to put it? And that's been a big help, not only to the environment, but certainly to the bottom line of the farmers, hasn't it?
Sure. Anytime you're producing seed, that plant is taking up nitrogens and other nutrients. And when you harvest that seed, you're taking some of those nutrients away with the seed. But when you spread the fodder out on the ground, then that breaks down and helps fertilize the ground for next year's crop. But the good thing about the corn, wheat, soybean rotation is you've always got something growing on the ground. You've always got a good cover and a fairly dense cover. So you really do a good job of controlling erosion.
Do you think we're seeing more and more farmers go to that wheat as a crop / cover crop kind of thing?
I don't really see, and I haven't looked at the numbers, haven't watched the numbers because I'm not really a wheat grower. The wheat that we use is for hay or just as for a cover crop that we burn down in the spring. But having Seymour Milling in West Kentucky really boosted our wheat production in the state several years ago. But some farmers like wheat, some don't. So it's fits in some operations, and some operations it doesn't.
I saw a figure. It was after last year's crop, and I know last year's crop was a lot better than this year's.
Last year's was a fantastic crop.
Put us in the top 10 in the country, and I was, to be honest, a little shocked by that.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had reached that level. So. Even for those who don't grow wheat, it's become a major crop in the state. Mm-hmm. Is that a good assessment of it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We had a really great crop last year and a decent price because this year the price is down and the yields were down also. But I can remember when I used to grow wheat and you were tickled to death with 40 bushel. And now if you don't make 100 bushel, you're disappointed.
Yeah. That's sort of the way it is with a lot of the crops, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, we've seen exponential growth in yield production through the years.
Let's say 7, 8 years ago, if you got 150 bushel in my area, you were pretty happy. Mm-hmm. And now if you make 150 bushel, you're losing money.
You're losing money. Yeah. As this committee begins, any hopes in your mind of where you want it to go? As at this very beginning, it's I don't want to use the word historic, but in some respect it is. Yeah. What do you see down the road for this?
Well, that's part of what we're searching for with the committee is what vision do we need? What direction do we need to go? And as I've said, it's gone toward the cover crops, things like that, to help out with the farmers and to make sure they're protected. And that's part of what policy does, Farm Bureau policy. And that's the main work of any committee that Farm Bureau has, any commodity committee, is to protect the farmers of Kentucky. So that, number one, is our main goal, to make sure that we have our policy right and where it needs to be for this growing movement.
People outside the world of farming that don't understand what you guys do and what good stewards of the land you are. You got to take care of your natural resources or you're out of business.
Right.
Do you think this helps to sort of squelch some of the rhetoric that they put out there about how much the ag industry contributes to a harmful environment? We know that's not true. Do you think in creating this committee that helps us take another step in correcting all that?
Anytime we take a step in the direction to get more information out there, so maybe you're going to touch more people so they will know what's going on the farm. I mean, we're producing more now than we ever have with less inputs. And we're doing it the way in most cases, we're doing it the way it should be done. Most of your big farmers and medium-sized farmers have got the GPS on their equipment, and they're putting the chemicals where they need to be, their crop inputs where they need to be. And that's got to be our goal, is to do things the right way. Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, in the board meeting this morning, we had the Environment and Energy Cabinet Secretary, and I hope I called her the right thing. And she is very complimentary of Farm Bureau, getting the information that her office needs to counter regulations that are out there or to create policy, what they do. How important is a relationship like that for us to have with someone at the state level to move this issue forward?
It's extremely important that we have a good relationship with the Division of Water and the Energy and Environmental Cabinet. That's not to say that we're going to agree all the time, because we're not. But we need to have that relationship to where an issue comes up, they can call us or we can call them and feel comfortable talking to them and talking through whatever that issue is, and hopefully come to a mutual understanding on it.
And as with every advisory committee, there will be an opportunity to present some policy recommendations. And we know as a grassroots organization, those recommendations can certainly become part of policy, part of priorities, and not just move from the state level, but often move to the federal level. So I would assume that that's going to be high on the list of the advisory committee once we get a little bit later in the year.
It is. We're meeting actually tomorrow, and we're still gathering information, and then we're going to meet again latter part of August, and we will work then to see what policy we need, what changes we need to make. We're actually having a group come in tomorrow from Illinois who have been doing a lot of work with this in their state, and kind of get the ideas they're doing and maybe tell us some things we need to be doing or some things that we don't need to be doing, or some things that they tried that didn't work, or some things, that did work for them. So.
One other question, Larry. Obviously, with our other committees, we have a diverse group of people that serve on those. Farm Bureau folks, there'll be some government folks. What are some of the people, not necessarily who they are, but what offices do they hold, and how does that selection part of the process work, and picking who's going to be there, and what that means to the ultimate goals of the committee?
Yeah. Whenever the president selects a committee, he has to look at what agencies in the state or what other organizations in the state can have an impact on that issue. Like a grains committee, you would have the Corn Growers and Soybean Association, the FSA, the NRCS, University of Kentucky. All of those groups are involved. And same way with this environmental stewardship, Division of Water, Division of Conservation, UK, FSA, NRCS. Who am I missing? I think that probably
sounds like a lot
of the groups. Yeah. And I'm probably missing one or two.
Well, certainly folks that are involved on a daily basis in environmental issues. And
the importance of them is we get updates from those groups or those organizations as to what they're doing. And that's important when you're going to make a decision. You want all the information that you can get.
pretty exciting to be on the beginning end of this.
Exciting
kind of
and nerve-wracking at the same time. A little nervous. We want to do it right and do the right thing for the farmers in Kentucky.
And having known you all these years, I know you will. I know it'll be. I know it'll be a good thing, and a good thing not only for the environment, but certainly for the industry as a whole. So
I appreciate that.
I wish you well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again to our guest today, Larry Thomas, on Kentucky Farm Bureau News, the podcast. To hear this and other Kentucky Farm Life podcasts, tune into your favorite podcast platforms.